Will, did you just throw an asteroid?
Goddamn right I did.
Well done, number one. Howdy y'all, I am Adam the Renaissance Nerd, and welcome to my review of Picard Season 3, Episode 4. And I gotta say, guys, this train keeps on rolling. I'm gonna say it right now, you already saw it on the title card and the thumbnail. This was a Next Generation episode. Terry Matalas wrote this episode. He's one of the two writers on this episode. You feel the TNG energy. I have been waiting for this to happen ever since the disasters of the Titan began, and it's out of control, and it's in trouble, it's being pursued, it's trapped, it's plummeting. I've been waiting for this moment where Star Trek happens, where it's not one giant hero moment, but the crew doing something spectacular. Little pieces coming together. One person has an idea. Another person builds off with it. And then the command, the admiral, the captain, they take control and they put the plan into action. And things happen. And Star Trek happens. And then at the very end, you get a combination of moment of Riker badassery and a true Star Trek moment pinned by the comment to find new life. And then let's boldly get the hell out of here. This was a Star Trek episode. This is what people have been missing. And again, this doesn't save Star Trek. It just reminds us what we've lost. And makes us wish going forward that a guy like Terry Matalas was going to be in charge of Star Trek going forward. And that Kurtzman and Kiva Goldsman would just F on off back to the spawning pools of bad reboot and just stay there forever and stay away from the things we love. Ooh, there's my opening statement on this. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty details. We're just going to roll right through the episode. There is the major A plot. Everything takes place on Titan this week. The B plot is woven into it, and the side character stuff all woven in. Granted, I would have loved to see some more Worf, but it would have broken the narrative of the story. And Terry Matalas understood that you had to keep the entire episode on Titan. Otherwise, you'd lose the power, the impact of everything that happens. And we get a bunch of stuff. We get a bunch of character reveals, some motivation reveals. We get some growing connections. We get some growth of characters that needed it at this point, that we were waiting for. Not when I say needed it, we were waiting for it. We knew it was coming, and it's payoff. And there's a beautiful symmetry to the episode, especially surrounding Riker. Let's just get into this. Let's have some fun, guys. We are here to have fun and celebrate something being done well. Let's do it. Picard Season 3, Episode 4, No-Win Scenario.
The changeling saboteur killed our transporter officer, Ensign Foster, days before Jack Crusher encountered him.
So far, Picard Season 3 has a pattern of opening with flashbacks to events that pertain to the episode. And this episode is no different. We open with a flashback of 5 years ago. Picard is in the faux 10 forward that exists in this Kurtzman Trek crap. Having lunch. Sitting down having lunch. But he's interrupted as a bunch of cadets come in. Cadets start to pester him about this book he released, and they start asking him questions. They want to hear stories from the man himself. Picard is hesitant because we know Picard naturally, and again, this is Terry Matalas, his knowledge of Trek coming through. Picard is a private man. He's a private man. He's not against giving speeches, but when it comes to interactions, he keeps it on a very close and personal level. Looks uncomfortable at the start, but opens up, feeling the enthusiasm of the cadets, and begins to regale them with the stories they desire. And then we cut to the present. It starts with this whole flashback, and you wonder, why are we doing this? This flashback is going to be persistent throughout the entire episode. And it's, at first you think, oh, another flashback, why are we doing this? But no, this flashback is actually massively important to the narrative because it brings forth two important points. One is a important Star Trek point, a very important Star Trek point, and another is a Picard point. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go through up until the final moment of the flashback. I'm going to just basically tell you what happens in it, and we'll come back to the final moment when we get to the climax of Act 3 in the episode. As I said, Picard regales these students with stories. They keep asking him questions, and eventually he imparts to them one of the most important pieces of Star Trek wisdom. This isn't a solo act. You are only as strong as your crew, working together to solve the problem. Isn't that dandy? To hear that coming out of a Star Trek character's mouth. It's about the crew. It's about the ship. It's not about the individual being a superhero. Yes, we have heroic moments, but it's tied in to the crew working together as a team to accomplish greater things that the individual cannot do by themselves. That's the gist of it. That is the Star Trek importance of this flashback. We'll come back to the flashback in the final moments because, again, we get some great show don't tell impact, character impact. We'll come back to it. Meanwhile, we're back in the present. Picard is staring out into the core, the center of this nebula where the Titan is basically adrift. Riker's on the bridge getting an assessment of what's going on. Basically, Titan is trashed. Nothing's working. If they shift energy from one system to another one, it's going to cause a chain reaction that's going to have Titan just collapse completely, and they're all dead. And at the moment, they all think they're dead. Riker believes this is it. This is the end. He says, do the best you can, you guys. Let's keep life support on. I'm going to go figure things out. Goes off, and now he talks with Picard in what I assume is the ready room of the Titan. Remember, when we ended last episode, Riker was not happy with Picard. You killed us all. Get off the bridge. Comes in. Riker and Picard start to apologize to one another. I thought we were going to get a little more tension going on, and I am both happy and slightly disappointed that we didn't get a little more tension between them, but I'm glad that the resolution came in a practical fashion, and it comes with character development. Picard tries to apologize for basically getting them all killed. Riker says, no. You were right about my behavior, that I'm running from things. And he begins to tell the story of when they were burying his son, how the plot, even though it was only 6 feet, looked infinite darkness. And a part of Riker shut down. He didn't feel anything anymore, and he's been running from that ever since. And the reason he and Deanna are separated is because as an empath, she wasn't so much appalled at his emotions over it. She was appalled that he was basically dead inside over the death of their son. He wasn't feeling anything, and she couldn't stand that, which is why he ran away. He ran away back to space. To look out into the center of this nebula, Riker discovers that in his attempt to run away from the nothingness that he was feeling with his personal life, he's now staring into the nothingness of this gravity well, the center of this nebula, where they are now faced with inevitable death. Now remember this. Riker is looking at this nebula, at this center of this gravity well at the center of the nebula as a nothing, as an empty. Just remember that. he's struggling with his personal life in this episode. We see now what's going on with him, why he's being so cautious, why he's not running forward because he's instinctively running away from everything. He doesn't want to attack, wants to defend. Well, by the end of the episode, we got Will Riker back in Will Riker form. That's why last episode it was confusing to see Captain Riker kind of waffling. Just wants to run, just wants to get away, doesn't want to confront things. Now we know why. He can't confront his feelings over the death of his son in this iteration. Therefore, it affects the way he behaved. But by the end of it, when he comes to the realization that he can't run, we see Will Riker back in action. You saw it in the opening clip. I'll talk more about it at the end. That's basically it. Picard and Riker make amends. Picard is sorry for interfering, but now basically Riker says to him, listen, we're done here. He's being pretty pessimistic. We're done here. With what little time we have left, go get to know your son. Go get to know your son. That's what Picard goes and does. Meanwhile, Seven is returning to the quarters of the transporter chief, officer, who the changeling murdered to take the place of, searching his quarters, and boom, finds a dead body. You knew this guy was dead. You can't be a changeling and have the actual person still around. Changeling rule number 1. If you're going to replace somebody, either make sure they're shuttled off someplace like Martok was in DS9, or you gank them. In this case, gank. Now, the reason they didn't think about it, well, why didn't they kill Martok in DS9? Because they needed Martok's information. Martok was there. He was a source of information. Couldn't have him be axed off. He was vital to all that stuff, to keeping the Klingons in check, all that crap. But this guy, nobody, transporter officer, you can gank his ass. Gank his ass. We cut to now Seven and Riker. They're communicating, trying to come up with a plan. Riker says, no. We cannot let this get out. Everybody is now huddled together, getting ready for the inevitable. We're not going to send them into a complete and utter panic and not trusting one another. Seven goes, wait a minute, but we need to deal with this. And Riker goes, aha, we are going to deal with it. You currently don't have your rank. You're outside the chain of command. You can operate freely. You go do that. I set you loose, Seven, to hunt the changeling. And Seven does hunt the changeling. What does Seven do? Seven goes to see Shaw, but we're going to get back to that because we're going along the lines here. Because on the way to Shaw, I got to stop and make a moment here that now here's where the brilliance of Star Trek is on display. This is why I call this a TNG episode. Remember last episode when we got the remark that the energy wave coming from the center of the nebula is both electrical and biological in its makeup. We cut to a moment. Every once in a while, the ship shakes and the lights, everything flares for a second when one of these energy waves comes over the ship. Now we got Beverly. You see Beverly doing a countdown. Beverly's wheels are turning. A member of the crew is working on this. And you don't... there's the talent of the writing in this episode. Doesn't need to come out and tell us, Beverly, what are you doing? Oh, I'm figuring out what's strange about this bioelectric energy wave. Oh, okay, you let us know when you figure it out. Okay, I will. That's not what happens here. All you get is Beverly doing a countdown, and the intelligent viewer realizes she's onto something. She's onto something with this energy source, and she's realizing there's more to it. It's just a moment, and we're going to come back to it. I love it. It's good stuff. But we have to first start with Seven goes to Shaw. Shaw is basically back in one piece, but Crusher put him back together. He's recuperating in his quarters. You hear the classic sound that means there's somebody at the door. He keeps going, don't come. Don't come. Oh, I'm going to come. Seven's going to come in. Finally lets her in. Seven barges in. He's sharpening a very deadly-looking knife, too. I kind of like that. You know what that is? That's a call-out to, once again, 12 Monkeys. because when he played Deacon in 12 Monkeys, he was a knife guy. He was a knife. He had a badass knife. That's a shout out again to 12 Monkeys, which Terry Matalas directed, and the guy who played Shaw was Deacon in 12 Monkeys. Ha ha! I saw it. Yes, I love it. Go watch 12 Monkeys too. Anywho, Seven comes to Shaw because she needs help for this. Because he knows the ship and the crew better than everybody, even though she says, even though you're a dick, you know this better than anybody. Now we get a great moment coming up between Seven and Shaw. So now you have the table is set between their dynamic is going to change. Meanwhile, again, we're jumping around because we're in the setup stages of what's going on here. Everything is a setup for what's going to happen in the culmination, the beautiful culmination of this episode where everything comes together. Riker is in the ready room. He is attempting to record one last message to Deanna should the Titan's wreck be discovered. But he can't quite do it. He doesn't have the words. Once more, remember that. He doesn't have the words, doesn't have the proper emotion to get this across. Because he hasn't dealt with his emotions. He's been running away from his emotions. And he sits there after he tries to say it haltingly and then just pauses it and stares off for a bit. That's, again, we're building all these beautiful character developments. I know it's weird, isn't it? Back to Seven and Shaw. Seven and Shaw, meanwhile, are coming up with a plan. Seven tells him, we got a changeling. We got a changeling. How do we hunt a changeling? I've never dealt with a changeling. I've dealt with a lot of weird shit. She didn't say this, but she's dealt with a lot of weird shit in the Delta Quadrant. She's never dealt with a changeling. Shaw basically says, we need to trap the changeling. Bait the changeling. Not only bait the changeling, but use his own weaknesses against him. Two weaknesses. One, a changeling can perfectly mimic anything on sight, but it doesn't come with memory. If you can get them into a trap on a memory question, that's a way to flush it. But it might already be too late. We have to try and track the changeling. Thanks to DS9 and the lore of Odo, we know that when a changeling is in hiding, when they're not freely about, when they're not free and about, Odo ditches his pot, as I'm going to say. He ditches his bowl, his pot, his receptacle, halfway through DS9 because then he just lives in his quarters. Doesn't need it anymore. But this changeling uses Odo's old trick to regenerate inside a pot while in hiding. Because when the rule, changeling rules. Changeling must revert every 24 hours. A changeling must revert to its gelatinous state, its liquid state to recover. Shaw knows this. Says, find the pot, get the residue from the changeling, or residue. They call it residue. Get the residue and run a ship-wide scan, because then you'll get it. Seven goes, aha, and Seven quickly heads out to the quarters of the ensign, or the transporter chief, and lickety-split finds the pot. That's basically the beginning of this. These are all setup pieces for what's going to happen next. That's why I kind of just rolled through it, because the emotional stuff hasn't happened yet. But now, again, we have one more emotional setup piece, Picard and Jack. Picard has now, earlier on when Beverly was doing her countdown, that was the moment when Picard said, can I have some time alone with Jack? Jack's like, sure. Beverly's like, of course. Picard and Jack go to the holodeck. Hey, it's the next generation. Let's go to the holodeck. Because that's what happens in the next generation. They go to the holodeck, they summon up an image of 10 forward, and Picard begins to try and get to know Jack. In the process, we're going to learn a whole lot more than I think we expected to. They just begin to talk, and he wants to listen to his son tell a story, this and that, and we move on. We get to the good stuff in the next section of the video. But first, we're back to Vadic, and we get a reveal. I wasn't expecting this. I was not expecting this turnabout that Vadic is, in fact, a changeling too.
Obtain and deliver the asset. All else is expendable. Your ship, your people, you.
I will pursue.
Good.
I gotta admit, I didn't see this particular angle coming. I was right in the sense that Vadic is not the big bad. I was right. She is on the thug level. She's on the grunt level, I guess. She's the attack dog. But she's a changeling. I didn't see that coming. I thought she would just be someone hired by the changelings, an experienced no good Nick, a baddie. But no, she's a changeling. This interaction is fascinating because you have to take into account changeling law, changeling rules, founder rules, the rules of the founders that we learn in DS9. But first, let's go through the scene, and then I'll explain why this is a fascinating thing and what we can look into this, how maybe we can start to read some tea leaves. We cut to the Shrike. Vadic she doesn't look happy. She does not look happy. She gets up. She walks over to I guess a giant bowl of sorts. As she begins to cut her hand, I realize, shit. That's when I realized she's a changeling. She cuts her hand off, and the part of her transforms into this thing, into this floating head, who is obviously the changeling in charge, the radical founder in charge. First of all, you're going to ask a question. Since when can changelings do this? Maybe it has something to do with maybe the bowl is in fact a device that allows for some sort of pseudo psychic connection that the Great Link provides. And it's some sort of subspace Great Link where they can connect their minds as long as a piece of them is separate from the whole. It can then become part of the link. I don't know. That's my guess. And maybe it'll get explained, maybe it won't. But that's my theory on this. But what she does is clearly open a line of communication with her boss. And this is a boss. This is an individual. Not a collective. This is an individual. She says the Titan with Jack Crusher got away. It's in the center of the nebula with the gravity well. We can't get there. The head is not happy. He says, "You go and get it. You go get him. There's no excuses. There can be no failure on this. You will do this." She goes, "I can't. The new tech we got, the disruptor tech, this transporter, this portal tech we have, it works with the gravity. We go in there." He goes, "I don't care. You will go in there, or you will suffer the consequences. Your crew, you're all expendable. So go get it done, or else." Vadic says, "Okay," puts her hand back, face goes back into the bowl, puts her hand back on. Let's take this apart for a second, because this is fascinating. If you know your DS9 lore, there is one rule above all other rules when it comes to founders and other changelings. One changeling cannot kill, should not kill, will not kill another changeling. Or, in this sense, also send a changeling to their death in this case. This schism, this faction, this break-off group of founders who are now in the Alpha Quadrant, this boss man, he don't give a shit. He does not care. He's basically saying, you're dead. You're dead if you go in there and you fail. You're dead if you come back and you fail. This is a radical shift from the social structure, the laws, the rules that the founders operated with in the Gamma Quadrant. We're dealing with hardcore guys here, willing to kill threatening another changeling's life. Damn. So that's what we're dealing with here. We're not dealing with founders. We are clearly dealing with a schism, an offshoot that have different beliefs, that rejected the wisdom that Odo brought back with him to the Great Link at the end of DS9. There you go. Fascinating. And I'm very interested to see where this goes and how it connects to Jack. There has to be something. We'll get into Jack and what's going on with him at the very end, but it's got to be with whatever's wrong with him, whatever he's seeing. We'll get back to that. Now, I'm going to jump about this segment here a little bit because I want to condense the events on the holodeck into one discussion rather than jumping back and forth as I have been so far. we start off in this point. We'll have a quick moment where Beverly is continuing to count down. No one knows what she's doing yet, but the intelligent viewer understands. As I said before, Beverly is on to something. She's counting down. There's regular intervals that she recognizes, and she's using her knowledge as a doctor. You're going to see this. It's brilliant. It's beautiful. It's Star Trek. It's the next generation. Beverly's working on it. It's just another quick clip of, there you go. Don't need to tell us, just show us. And I love it. Meanwhile, Seven is on the hunt for the changeling. She is demanding that biochemistry lab open up and let her scan this. They're saying, we don't have the energy. She goes, I don't care. This is a ship priority, number one priority. Well, as she's doing that, security dude ganks one security person, turns around, takes a pot shot at her. Seven dodges, pulls out her own phaser, fires back. It's the changeling. We have a quick exchange of fire. She wounds the changeling. She takes its arm off, or what was pretending to be an arm, off, and the changeling retreats into the ship, through a crack. Seven calls for help, gets somebody to fix it, and basically that's what happens there. Now I want to take a moment here and comment on this before we get into what goes on over in the holodeck. This is interesting. If you go back to DS9, which again in this Star Trek timeline is over 20 years ago, clearly technology's advanced, because back in the day, it took a lot of firepower to take out a changeling. Took a lot of phaser or Klingon disruptors. One time we saw everybody kill the changeling impersonating Martok. It takes a lot of phaser and firepower to take out a changeling. Seven just ganks this bitch. Just boom, shoots an arm off. Clearly, phaser technology is a lot stronger than what it be, because that's actually phaser pulse shot. It's not the straight-on phaser beam anymore. That's basically a pulse blast, like back during the Dominion War when they introduced those phaser rifles that fired off the condensed blasts. I love those things. This is clear. We clearly have better phaser technology. So I just wanted to make that comment that it takes a lot less to take out a changeling now than it did in the past. A changeling is they're not as they can't take as much damage as they can before, because phaser tech is better. Just wanted to comment on that. All right, now here are the events of the holodeck. We got both Picard and Jack, and then Shaw. Now here's a little taste of it, of where we're going.
Forget about all that weird shit of the Stargazer. The real Borg are still out there, and they have a name for you. Locutus of Borg.
I love this scene, these combination of scenes. Remember, we're combining two different scenes because I don't want to break the discussion, the conversation about what goes on here. We get so much here. This is a great explanation of character feelings, development, more setup, and of course a beautiful integration of proper lore to explain things and to evoke the feeling, the emotion, the atmosphere of what's going on here. Already hinted at it with Shaw, but we'll come back to it in a moment. The scene begins with Jack asking Picard, why are we here? Shouldn't we be conserving energy? Picard says, no, the holodeck exists on its own little energy source. Because when there's a morale problem in a deadly situation, it should be here for people to come and relax, take a load off. Those who are not probably on duty and shit like that. They need a way to not let the despair grip them. And right on cue, Arch opens again. Some crew members come and go, Admiral, is this a private thing or can we come in? Picard goes, no, please come in, sit down. Take a load off, relax. To show that this is part of what it means to be a crew. To you live together, you suffer together, you persevere together. And Jack looks around as these crew members come in and start consoling each other in what they believe are possibly their final hours of life. Jack looks at him and says, I don't know what you're trying to do here, but excuse me. I don't need this. I exception of my mom, I've been on my own. I'm just out there doing my thing. I'm okay existing on the outside, not being inside. I don't need these connections. And remember this. This is an important phrase because I don't think he means it. But we'll have to come back to that because that's a spoiler for the final moments of the episode. Picard says, "You don't understand. We all need something. We're all meant. Humans are meant to have connections, whether it's through professional or private life. We're all supposed to find some level of heart to heart, being with one another, because we're not meant to be solitary creatures." And I say that for Picard. Picard, as I said earlier, he's a private man, but that makes his relationships that he creates even more important because he doesn't make a ton of open relationships. He keeps his life private, but that means the ones he does connect with are very important. Jack doesn't quite understand this, but just nods. Okay, fine, whatever. And we skip forward now. They're continuing their talk. They're trying to get to know each other, trying to understand. Jack says, "I don't really. What are we trying to do here? I mean, because since I don't need these connections, I don't need this connection." And Picard says, "Well, maybe I do. Maybe I need to get to know you to form this bond." And so Jack asks him, as they go for another round of drinks, "Why did my mom name me after her ex-husband? Did she do that to piss you off, you think?" And Picard goes, No. Jack Crusher was my best friend, and I knew him before I knew your mother. Before he knew your mother, we were friends. Served on the Stargazer, the original Stargazer. And one time, now he tells a story. One time, it was alluded to earlier in the episode in the flashback. Him and Picard and Jack Crusher, Senior, the original Jack Crusher, they basically got invitations to some very willing ladies on some shore leave. And because they didn't want to pass that up, they borrowed a shuttlecraft and to go back and get that piece of ass. Problem is, on the way back, they got hit by a micrometeor shower, which ravaged the shuttle. And they, by all rights, should have been dead, but they persevered. They worked together as a team to figure out a way to bounce energy back and forth between two vital systems, thrusters and navigation, and then limp back to the ship. And it's a great little story. And again, set up, payoff coming. But at the same time, as he tells that story, in comes Shaw. Shaw has wandered into this little party. What a thrilling story. I got a story for you. Once upon a time, I had friends, just like Picard and your namesake were great friends and helped each other out. I had friends too on a ship. I forget the name of the ship. I have to go back and look at it. We were like family ourselves. Until a certain day happened. Battle of Wolf 359. When one Borg ship annihilated a fleet of Federation cruisers. On my ship, it was seconds passed, and it was as if space was on fire. Everything was burning. We made it to the life deck, but there was one escape pod left, and there were 50 of us, my friends, my family. 50 of us and only 10, but we didn't fight each other. We didn't push each other around, sacrifice each other to get on. We waited for our orders. And this explains why he believes in orders. Why he believes in following the chain of command by doing things properly. This speaks a lot to Shaw's perspective on how to run a ship. We waited until a lieutenant came down and simply started at random pointing to people to get on the pod, excluding herself. Just said, everybody get on. And at number 10, she pointed to him. And Shaw could not understand for the life of him why he, nothing but an engineering grease monkey, was chosen. While 41 other people on that life deck had to die. And all the time now he's asking himself, he's saying, where was your dad during all this? Jack, you know where your dad was? He was on that Borg cube. He had a name, the Borg, named him, Locutus. Real Borg. You notice he says real Borg in that clip. The actual Borg are still out there. That's a little thing. F you, Kurtzman Trek. The real Borg are out there. They named him Locutus because he is such a powerful butcher. Such a horrible creature. They gave him a name and he destroyed everything. So maybe that's why I have a problem. And while he's giving this speech, while he's recounting what happened, you're getting shots of Picard just looking down. And Jack is just a little stunned. I don't know if he'd heard this or not. Maybe Beverly had told him. Maybe she hadn't. But he's listening to this and you can tell he's uncomfortable hearing this. He can see that he doesn't like seeing his father take this blow from this other dude, this emotional hit. But while they're doing this, you hear the sounds of Wolf 359 battle. At one point, when it's focused on Picard, just thinking about it, you hear him going, "I am Locutus of Borg," overlaying. There's little bits from that arc just slipped in there, and it's brilliant. It creates an atmosphere of emotion. Old school Trek fans, we are connecting this because we're hearing this, and when we hear this story of this, we're remembering Best of Both Worlds. We're remembering it, thinking about it, how powerful that was. That Picard gets assimilated and destroys it. And this isn't the first time we visited this. Remember, Sisko's arc in DS9 begins with him as a survivor of Wolf 359 and his own dislike for Picard. Granted, they kind of move away from that pretty quickly in season 1, but we've dealt with this before. So here we have another individual who's suffering from massive PTSD from the original Borg invasion of the Federation. And he looks at and it's powerful. Now we understand why Shaw wants nothing to do with Picard, and by attachment Riker, by association Riker, because Picard nearly killed him and ruined his life to an extent and murdered his friends, his family, his crew. And he has trouble. He has survivor's guilt. You can see he has survivor's guilt. Why did a grease monkey, a nothing grunt engineer like myself, get to survive this? And now you understand, as I said, why he believes in following orders. Because orders are what ended up saving him. Because somebody just ordered it. People didn't resort to bestial behavior. They just followed orders. And orders saved the day to an extent there. Of course, at the end of this, Jack goes, "No, come on, stop, that's enough." But Picard looks up and says, No, it's all right. It's okay. It's not like he hasn't faced this before. Picard gracefully exits, steps out, and Jack quickly follows. And Shaw gives a great line here. He says to the other crew members there, "You'll have to excuse me. I replaced charm with asshole a long time ago," or something along those lines. Basically, I replaced the ability to have charm with just being an asshole a long time ago. I'm sorry. Then we cut to the hall. Jack catches the Picard trying to say, "Listen, he had no right." Picard goes, No, it's all right. Listen, Jack, I appreciate you spending this time with me, but now I have to get on with trying to find a way out of this." And then here comes Beverly. Beverly comes up to them, says, "Hold the phone, boys. I figured this shit out." Here is where we get Star Trek, where we get real Star Trek coming into play. A crew starts to come together to solve a problem. Beverly says, "I've been tracking these energy pulses, these bioelectric energy pulses coming from the center of the nebula. And it has a pattern. There's a pattern to this, almost like something's getting ready to give birth." We are not just in a simple situation of a nebula, a simple space anomaly. We're in the middle of a space phenomena. Something spectacular is happening. Life exists in this. We cut to the ready room as they're trying to explain to Riker there is something happening here, and the energy coming out. There's a life form that's being born here because we've encountered, and they say, like in Farpoint, yes, like at Farpoint, that some entities thrive in the vacuum of space, and something is being born here. And these are contractions, these energy pulses. Beverly says these are contractions. She's a doctor. She recognized it. I love it. Problem is, when the final one happens, we're done unless we find a way to utilize it. And now Picard and Beverly come together. We have a plan. We can siphon the energy, recharge the Titan, and get the hell out of here. But Riker's going, no, we can't do that. Riker is still in running away mode at this moment. We can't do that. We're going to kill ourselves. It's not going to work. But then Beverly says this, and it reminds you, and then Picard follows up a moment later, it reminds you this is Star Trek. And to quote Kirk, I don't believe in the no-win scenario.
Look where we are. Here, all of us, in this moment. So let's do what we spent our entire lives learning to be great at.
I was waiting for this to happen. I said it before. I'm waiting for this to happen, for someone to remind us all that when it comes to Star Trek, it's about the strength of the crew. Why don't we do what we've always done? Beverly basically says, why don't we do what we've always done? Why don't we come out of this impossible situation by working together? Picard follows up a moment later, but basically also saying, we did this before. We are a crew. We are stronger together. Will, work with us. And Will starts to walk away, but then he stops as Picard says that, and it reaches him. The combined positivity of Picard and Crusher reaches Will. And Riker, and then he turns around, then he's Riker. Then he is, we are fully back with Will Riker. He comes back to us in this moment. He's no longer running. He says, all right. We're going to do this. There's a way. We have to manually open the nacelles to absorb this energy. And then we got to have a real careful balancing trick in shifting everything back and forth. And then we have to navigate the asteroids. And Picard goes, hey, don't worry, we can do it. We're together. And now the plan's in motion. Now we get that moment of a crew. This is what New Trek has lacked from all accounts that I've heard. These people in New Trek, these fake crews, they don't behave like Starfleet officers. What we get now in this final segment of the show, we see Starfleet officers doing their duty, working together to achieve the impossible. The plan is, as I said, ride that wave. They are going to surf their way out of the nebula while absorbing the energy to recharge the warp core and everything else, and then so they can get the hell out of there. Meanwhile, they need to dodge asteroids with barely any sensors. Kind of like what Picard did with Jack Crusher. Kind of like what Picard once upon a time did in another episode where they had to dodge anomalies that could only be seen right in front of them. That's a good episode. I don't remember the title, but you know what I'm talking about, you old school TNG fans. The plan is in motion. Riker's issuing orders. Thing is, they need one thing. They need someone who knows the ship. We got to knock at Shaw's door. Door opens up. Shaw did not expect to see Picard and Seven there. Picard, they basically say the Titan may be refitted, but it's still a 20-year-old ship that has 20-year-old nacelles. Shaw, you're an old grease monkey. We need these kids. They don't know how to do it. He goes, and you need me because these kids don't know how to hotwire this thing. And unfortunately, during this moment, Patrick Stewart drops an F-bomb. And again, I'm still on board. There should be no cussing in Star Trek. I do not believe in it. That's one of the minor drawbacks. On what otherwise has been stellar dialogue this entire episode, that took me out of it for half a second because I don't want to hear Patrick Stewart drop an F-bomb as Jean-Luc Picard. I didn't need that. Little joking though, we need We need an asshole grease monkey, this and that. But that was funny. I like that. Still, Shaw goes, okay, I'm on board. Problem is, the Changeling. The Changeling is still at large. While Seven and Shaw go to basically hotwire the nacelles to pop them open so they can absorb it, Shaw and Seven come to the conclusion the Changeling is going to strike at them while they're in that room putting it together. So Seven comes up with a plan. And all we hear of it is seeing Riker say, "Understood, Commander." She's told it. We don't know what it is. We're going to find out. Basically, though, we get now the moment you've been waiting for. If you're into this right now, if you're watching and enjoying it, you get the moment you've waited for. In order to command this mission properly, it needs the man who came up with the idea, which means Riker steps aside and gives Picard command of the Titan. Picard takes the seat. Riker sits next to him. Captain Picard and number 1 are back, and we're ready. Ensign LaForge looks happy. Picard says, "Ensign LaForge, engage." They're ready to go. The plan's in motion. Here it comes. Beverly's counting it down. Jack is there as well. Everybody's sheltering in place where they need to be. And it begins. They're trying to hotwire. They're trying to get it done. How much time do we have? We have 2 minutes. Here we go. It's going to happen. But oh, ho, ho. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the doors to the engine room where Shaw and Seven are working in. Why is Ensign LaForge here? Now, right away, you know it's the Changeling because this is a Starfleet ship. A Starfleet ship that is running with proper Starfleet officers. You are not putting your primary helmsman away from the helm in the middle of a crisis where you need pinpoint driving. Pinpoint navigation. She's the best flyer on that ship. She knows the ship the best right now in terms of navigating it. Why would she leave? Now this Ensign LaForge starts to question Shaw about what's going on, and Shaw's answering because Shaw seems pretty calm because he was waiting for this. This was the bait. Seven specifically said to Riker, "Do not send anybody down here because we know the Changeling's going to come and try and gank us." Shaw's about to kill, the Changeling LaForge is about to kill Shaw, but then boom, there's Seven. Gotcha. Now, just to be sure, Seven asks Changeling LaForge, Changeling Sydney, when she's saying, "Commander, what are you doing?" She says, "Commander, what?" She goes, "Commander Hansen?" Without even blinking, Seven ganks her. Ganks her point blank, kills the Changeling, boom, boom. Shaw goes, "How did you know?" Seven goes, "Because whenever we're alone, Ensign LaForge calls me Commander Seven, out of respect." And Shaw goes, "Noted." See, their relationship might be growing here. Now, I've always said in the past that I think this was a bit of a misstep in terms of having Seven be Seven anymore. We have evidence from Voyager that when finding her humanity again, there was a moment where she wanted to be called Annika Hansen again, not just Seven. I believe that she could have been called Annika again. I kind of would have liked it. Anyway, minor point. So the Changeling is dead. Trap set, bait, enemy caught and killed. And now they fix it, get it done. Meanwhile, as everything's going, the crew, the bridge crew of the Titan, it's a great moment. I really appreciate this. They're balancing the energy flows of everything going on, and they're just properly talking to one another, shifting this there, got this, doing that, without needing to be told anything. They're operating like a proper Starfleet crew, and it's very cool to see. But then, problem is, they only made it to 98% of charging the thrusters. Only 98%. So everybody looks at Riker, and Riker says, "Shut down life support. Everybody hold your breath." And then it happens. The final contraction. Boom! Here it comes. The nacelles are open. It works. Of course it works. This was the plan. It's a Star Trek crew plan. Our hero crew plan came together, and it recharges Titan, and Titan's riding that wave. Picard going, Ensign LaForge, ride that wave. Do it. Make it. Ride it. It's cool. It's getting done. Everybody's excited. Everything's recharged. Warp core will be fully charged in 90 seconds. But as they clear the asteroids,
Sirs, contact the Shrike. Mark 019, dead ahead.
Here it comes. I teased it at the start of the review. Here comes the Strike. And for the sharp of ear, yes, there was that little hint of Wrath of Khan music. Yes, still there. Here comes the Shrike. What are you going to do? She still outguns the Titan. The Titan can't really do anything. It's moving purely on momentum at this point. No shields, no weapons, no nothing. Riker is the ultimate weapon right now. As Vadic sees them coming, she starts giving this speech as the scenes overlay, cutting back and forth. If the predator waits long enough, the prey will come into its waiting maw. I'm gonna get you. You're mine. You're mine. Riker, in full badass Riker mode now, marches right up to the Khan. Says, "All right, you lock on this right here." No question. Aye, aye, sir. Tractor beam working? Yeah. They tractor beam an asteroid, and on Riker's command, alters the thrusters and hurls the asteroid into the Shrike, doing monumental critical damage to the enemy vessel, allowing the Titan to just go zoom on by. Vadic is defeated. She's not dead. We don't see the Shrike blow up, but they're in critical failure. They have to shut everything down. They can no longer pursue. Vadic has failed. And now we get to, in my opinion, the most important part of this episode. I've been talking this whole review about how this episode feels like a Star Trek The Next Generation episode. It feels like a Star Trek episode, period. Because we've had great character interaction, great development. We've seen Starfleet officers behave like Starfleet officers. We've seen people be real. And that's part of the thing about Star Trek. It was science fiction, but it was science fiction based on characters and their reactions to events, and they feel real to you. And you get all sides of the argument. But there's one other element to Star Trek that's massively important. The wonder, the beauty, the finding of new life, the exploration of the galaxy. And as they emerge from the nebula, you hear it in that scene right here, the Vulcan science officer says, "Sir, the nebula is changing." The nebula was changing. The nebula was, as Beverly concluded, it was a life form giving birth. And as they emerge, they're basically surrounded by space squids. Yeah, we'll call them space squids because that's what they are. But suddenly, this massive amount of life. And as everybody looks at it, you can see they're touched. Everybody's on the bridge. Shaw's back on the bridge. Seven's on the bridge. Everybody looks at this, and they are just in awe of the beauty. And Beverly says to seek out new life. And then Riker goes, "Now let's boldly get the hell out of here." But there you go. And it changes everybody. And while they're talking, while they're observing this, we flash back to, now here's the end part of the Picard flashback from 5 years ago in 10 forward. All those little cadets were asking questions, but then suddenly someone else asks a question, and she says, "I'd like to eat my lunch now, thank you all." Someone else asks a question. If you had your professional life, what about your family? And then the cadets part, and it's Jack. Jack did seek him out. Beverly says he didn't, but in secret he did. He's wearing a cap. He's hiding his identity there, physically himself. And he asks, "Did you have a private life? Did you ever want one? It's like your professional life." Now, here's the thing. We're going to harken back now. We know Picard regrets not having a family. He regrets not having a family. And you see the ever so brief conflict within him before he answers. And in front of all those cadets, he needs to give the proper answer. What's the term? I just forgot the term. the business as usual, the company answer thing, the company answer, the company line. That's it, the company line. Starfleet was all the family I ever needed. And you can see it right there, because as we're doing this, Jack was involved in this crew thing. He was helping them navigate those asteroids, and Picard had to trust his navigation right there at one point to dodge a big one. And in this moment, when you're hearing the overtone of Picard talking about it's a family, you come together, you work together, you rely on each other, Jack is looking around, and Picard basically goes, yeah, you see what I'm talking about? We all need connection. And Jack is beginning to, I think, understand the connection that one can have with your crew. That can be a family. But then, like I said, we cut to this, and he asked in the outside of it, what about your private life? And when Picard said, Starfleet was all the family I ever needed, just to cover his own heartbreak and to make sure those cadets didn't feel bad about being a part of Starfleet. It's all company line there. But Jack then runs away. He's there 1 second, gone the next in the flashback, and Picard realizes. But then as they are looking at each other and Picard is remembering this, he realizes that was Jack. He says, young man, well, Picard, Starfleet's all I ever needed. And Jack and he have that realization. Show, don't tell. We didn't need them to talk to each other saying, oh, you were there that whole time. Yes, it was me that time. That's why I didn't contact you, because when you said this and no. That exchange of looks makes you realize that Picard putting out the company line broke Jack's heart right there when he was looking to connect with his father. And Jack believed it because he didn't understand that Picard didn't believe it. And that's why you go back to the earlier conversation in the holodeck. Oh, I'm good on my own. I didn't need that, because at that moment, Jack decided he was good on his own. I mean, at that point, right now, there was a joke earlier in the episode, I forgot it, where he asked Picard, so when does the hair go? He says, what are you, 23, 24? Yeah, enjoy it while you can. 5 years ago, that means this timeline, Jack is under 20. He's in his late teens. He's in his mid-20s now. For a kid like that to hear that, it broke his heart probably. And that's why he ran away and committed to being on the outside. But he didn't know Picard was lying. It breaks your heart. But now you see that maybe there's a chance for them to find the connection. To be that, because he understands that Jean-Luc was company line to those cadets, but it also was a truth in terms of Starfleet can be your family. But he sees now that Picard wants that private life family too. That he's not against it. And we'll see where it goes. We have two more scenes. One more scene. Now you cut to Riker. And here's where I said this is massively important for symmetry. Remember at the beginning of the episode, Riker was talking about looking into the core of this nebula and seeing nothing but emptiness and death. When in fact, this nebula was a burst of life waiting to happen. And in seeing these space squids be born, discovering new life, it restored something in him. To the point where now that they're free of the nebula, he's talking to Deanna. We get a moment of Marina Sirtis. I know, clench yourself and get through it. Where he's telling her, I'm sorry that I shut myself down to everything. But seeing what we just saw, I understand now that there is life out here. There's glory. There's beauty. It's still in this universe. And I want to show it to you again, and I'm going to fix it. I'm sorry. And Deanna basically says, I haven't heard you talk like this in a long time, and I'm happy to hear this, and I can't wait till you come home. But are you guys okay? Are you and Jean-Luc all right? And Riker goes, we're going to find out. I think we're in trouble. We're going to find out. But right there, Riker, beautiful symmetry. The beginning, he saw death, but in fact, it was life, and in seeing the life, he's got his faith restored. And I love it. Beautifully done. Now we close out with Picard talking about how what do these changelings want with my son? We're gonna have to find this out. Meanwhile, we close in on Jack. He's in some quarters. He's been given, I guess, just throwing some water on his face, looking in the mirror, and suddenly, boom! There's that red root splotch thing we saw in his dying vision from last episode, and you hear somebody whispering, "Find me, find me." So, I mean, it sounds like his mother yelling, "Jack!" There's something going on. He's connected to something, and he's seeing flashes and a door and an apocalyptic explosion thing, and he starts smacking his head to try and get it to go away. He's freaking out. And then episode ends. The changelings want him for something he's connected to on some metaphysical wavelengths. And we're going to find out. But that's episode, guys. Let's bring this to a close. There you have it, guys. Episode 4, no-win scenario. We, of course, as I said, do not believe in no-win scenario. Tell me, after seeing these events laid out before you, does this not feel like an actual Star Trek episode? We had characters interacting over issues. We had Starfleet officers being Starfleet officers. We had a little bit of action, and we had a Star Trek moment, watching new life, protecting each other. The team working together to solve the impossible problem. It felt like a Star Trek episode, and we got a lot of great stuff. We got great character development. We now understand Shaw completely. We know Jack is becoming more and more interesting, both upon his desire to have a relationship with Jean-Luc, but at the same time, what is going on with Jack? What is this thing that's calling to him, and he doesn't want it? It's causing him discomfort, maybe even pain. I don't know. Where we go from here, who knows? I don't know. Clearly, we are at the end of our time on the Titan. They're going to head back to Starbase, and it's going to get repaired. We're done with the Titan, most likely. We're going to move on to some other ship, maybe an Enterprise. Oh, I hope it's an Enterprise. I do. I really do. I'd love to see an Enterprise. I do think we're going... I think we get Geordi. I don't look at previews, so I have no idea. I think we get Geordi next episode, because when you look in the credits here, you saw a museum, and we know Geordi's the curator of the museum. So I think we're getting Geordi in the museum next time. We're going to start asking questions, trying to figure stuff out. We're probably going to pick up with Worf and Raffi. Again, everything's going to come together. We're heading to Daystrom. We're heading to stuff. We are next week is the halfway point. 5 out of 10 episodes. I believe this is 10 episodes. We're at the halfway point. And I can't wait. We'll get more answers on the changelings. Vadic is a changelings. These changelings are really radical. They don't behave like the founders from the Gamma Quadrant. I do hope that our TNG crew remains. I don't hope Gates McFadden exits. I could do without Marina Sirtis. Don't need her. And Deanna doesn't bring anything to the table anyway in any of this. She doesn't bring anything to the table. And I want more. This is Star Trek. I'm having fun. I'm into this. I see all the Easter eggs that I can spot myself are in there, and it's hearkening back. And all we need now is Alex Kurtzman to go away and to give it to Terry Metalis. We can dream, but we're probably not. Either way, guys, again, I recommend watching this. I'm having a great time. I hope you can tell it through the camera. This is fun. It's just fun. There are shout-out cheer moments. And if you're doing that without even... when it's unconscious like that, you know you're having a good time. You know, I personally wish I wasn't reviewing this to an extent so that I could just wait to binge it all, because I hate waiting week to week, but I'm going to have to wait it. I will see you guys next week for episode 5. Until then, take it easy. Hit that like button. Leave a comment. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, I'll see you next time. Take it easy, everybody. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you'd like to reach out to me, please email me at theranernerd@gmail.com for all channel business purposes. I am on Twitter now, mostly for promotion and sharing of videos, maybe a little shit stirring here and there, who knows, @theranernerd. You can also find me at the Geeks and Gamers forums under @ROAS, and you can see me on Rumble and Odyssey under the Renaissance Nerd. Thanks again for watching. Take it easy.